Hey everyone, it's Alexander the Real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Guns Akimbo, which stars Daniel Radcliffe and Samara Weaving. The movie takes place in a world where this criminal organization named Schism gathers a bunch of criminals and psychos, pits them against each other in death matches, and then broadcasts these death matches live all across the internet. And they bring in millions of views, and there's just a chunk of society that eats it up. So Daniel Radcliffe plays a computer programmer who spends his free time trolling people on the internet, and he decides to one day troll the viewers of Schism and insult them on how they are sick for enjoying this kind of entertainment. But eventually his trolling gets him in trouble to where the head of Schism decides to nail guns to both his hands and pits him against one of Schism's most popular competitors, Nyx, played by Samara Weaving. And so the rest of the movie follows Daniel Radcliffe's character Miles as he tries to get the two guns off his hands and possibly take down Schism. So I had actually heard about this movie in passing, but I never really bothered to look it up. The only way I even knew about this movie was due to the controversy surrounding its director, which wasn't a good selling point of the movie if the only way I ever knew about it was through the director and a controversy. But I also found out that this movie played at Fantastic Fest last year, which I was at, and the only reason I missed the screening was because I was actually in San Antonio. Yeah, imagine that. I go on vacation to Austin for a Fantastic Fest, only to be out of town in San Antonio for that one particular screening. But nevertheless, the point where I was actually sold on checking out the movie was through Junk Food Cinema when the two hosts of the movie, Brian Salisbury and C. Robert Cargill, talked about this movie briefly on their Birds of Prey review. So I just thought, might as well check this out at some point. So I rented it on YouTube, watched it over the weekend, and it was actually a lot of fun. When watching this movie, it kind of reminded me of Crank in the sense that it's sort of exploitative, it's over the top in terms of its action and camera shots, and it's unapologetically violent. Except by comparison of Crank, Guns Akimbo is actually a little more, I don't want to say restrained, because the whole movie revolves around a guy with two pistols nailed to his hands. So that's the complete opposite of restraint, but still not as crazy as anything that the Crank movies have ever done. And that's honestly the film's biggest strengths. It's the action and just the whole over-the-top nature of it. The action scenes are very well shot, well choreographed. There's a lot of interesting camera angles and just camera tricks that this movie does. And like I said before, it's unapologetically violent, but I don't think it ever goes down the route of torture porn. There's never a point where the movie goes absolutely over the top with violence, but it definitely is there and does not shy back from any gore or blood, or even dismemberment. There's nobody super recognizable in this movie. I mean, it's not a very big, high-profile movie to begin with, but the two most recognizable people here are Daniel Radcliffe and Samara Weaving. And when it comes to Daniel Radcliffe, it's interesting that in the post-Harry Potter careers, Emma Watson has had more of the mainstream career, because she's definitely been in a lot of high-profile movies after Harry Potter, such as Perks of Being a Wallflower, Beauty and the Beast, and Little Women. And in terms of Daniel Radcliffe, he has definitely taken on a more interesting post-Harry Potter career between Swiss Army Man and now this. He has an American accent in this movie, and I'd say his accent is on the level of Benedict Cumberbatch in Doctor Strange, where it's not bad, but it's really bizarre hearing Daniel Radcliffe do anything but a British accent. But he's still pretty good in the movie. And there's a lot of goofy moments surrounding his character and the fact that he has two guns nailed to his hands. Like how he tries to text on a cell phone, how he tries to clothe himself, how he tries to eat, how he tries to drive a car. It's very goofy, and it plays into this movie's dark sense of humor that honestly never goes completely overboard. There are a lot of points in this movie where the humor could be just too much and used in very inappropriate manners, but I think it worked out. And then you have Samara Weaving, who you might remember as the lead character from Ready or Not, one of my favorite movies of last year, and one that, if you still haven't seen it, you still need to see. But she plays Nyx, who is a coked out, psychotic, gun-wielding psycho. I don't know how else to describe her character. but she comes across as one-dimensional at first, which, considering the way that this character is introduced, is kind of acceptable. But as the movie goes on, you realize that there's actually a lot more to this character, and she just nails this role. She's very good, and she's very well equipped at handling the film's action scenes. Between this and Ready or Not, I feel like she might be stepping up as a female action star, which I can't wait to see more of Samara Weaving in the future. The rest of the cast is fine. While there's no bad performances in this movie, the rest of the characters are just entirely one-dimensional, and with the exception of the crazy bearded homeless man that Daniel Radcliffe makes friends with, nobody truly stands out in this movie, and they're just more or less devices to move the plot along and get from one action scene to the next, which, considering the type of movie that this is totally fine. There are some problems with this movie. For one, it's got some terrible special effects. There's a lot of digital blood in this movie. In fact, I don't think there's any use of practical blood when someone gets killed. But when you watch this movie and there's blood spewing out of people, it's not very convincing. It just looks downright terrible. And a lot of the other special effects are just crappy as well. Which, considering that this isn't a big budget movie, I can kind of let them slide. But when you watch something like Upgrade, which doesn't have much of a budget to begin with, and you're impressed by the level of special effects in that movie, this just comes across as rather disappointing. And another problem I had with the movie is that it tries to have some sort of social commentary about how parts of society are just kind of desensitized to violence to the point where they'll get a kick out of watching real people get killed. And while the movie starts off with that kind of statement and Daniel Radcliffe's character is on the opposite side of that, it doesn't really amount to much outside of Daniel Radcliffe looking straight into the cameras that are broadcasting the schism matches and telling off the entire audience watching these matches how they're sick and twisted for enjoying this kind of stuff. Which is kind of disappointing considering that this movie, with its concept, could have had something to say with that social commentary, but it never really goes beyond that. So the best I could say about this movie is that it's never bad. When you're watching this movie from beginning to end, it's always entertaining, there's always something going on, it's very funny, the score is pretty fantastic, and it's got a lot of unique action and camera shots to make you at least invested for the 90 minutes that you're watching it. So it's not a great movie, but it definitely is good. If the movie had a better grasp on its social commentary and made a better statement about how society can be desensitized to violence, then I would have gone to loving this movie. But for right now, it's just a lot of fun, and it's a movie that I wouldn't mind picking up on Blu-ray later on because I enjoyed it that much. And there you go, that's my review for Guns Akimbo. And now I want to know what you guys think about the movie. If you've seen it, what did you think? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, leave a comment, support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until then, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there's only one.